So, hello everyone. We're back with another week of masterclasses. Today we're going to be doing an in-depth guide on the region portals. So these are the portals from the initial voting stage as soon as you load into the game, where you get to vote on which region you want to play in. This guide will be talking about each portal, how to play around them, what you should be looking for, and just tips in general for each specific portal. So let's get into it. It's patch 14.2 still. This will be the patch played on the upcoming Heartsteel Cup for both weeks. We're going to go into a quick intro about what region portals are. Normally we just call them regions, but the official name is region portals. There's a couple of different types of them. So there's economic ones, item related ones, augment ones, and then unique ones that don't really fit into any specific category. Some of them are combat related, and we'll talk about them at the very end. All right, so region portal guide. So here's a quick intro. This is basically what it looks like. This is an old screenshot, but there's no current ones. But basically you get three options of what portal you want to vote for, and then you just hover over it. There's a whole list of them. I'll try to include it in the description, but if you've been playing the set, you should generally know what portals like exist. And then yeah, you vote for your region of choice, and then it's not particularly the majority vote that guarantees the win. You just have a higher chance. So let's say if it's like if like 4 players go on one and then 2 players go on the other and 2 players go into other, is like of course the 66% chance has a higher chance of winning. It's not an instant pick just because you have the majority vote on a specific region. So that's how it happens. I mean, it replaces the carousel, and then you'll spawn into 1-2 with a, well, if it's a specific portal, for example, like in our economic ones, like 3 champions, you'll spawn in with 3 tier 1 champions. But if it's not, then you'll just spawn in with 1 tier 1 champion. Okay, so the first type of portals I want to talk about is the economic portal. So these are any portal that provides some sort of gold, whether this gold be in the form of units or the gold just comes in the form of actual gold, or you have to do something in order to gain that gold. So this is like the 3 champions I just mentioned. You get 3 tier 1 champions, 3 cost champions, so you get 1 3 cost champions. Augment pale, for every augment select you get gold. Champion delivery is like the old Yordles portals on the -1 of each stage, and then the -5. So let's say stage 2, then on stage 2-1 you will get a champion delivery, and then on stage 2-5 you will get another champion delivery, and then it should be the stage number +1. So on stage 2 you'll be getting 3 costs, on stage 3 you should be getting 4 costs, and then once we get to stage 4 you'll start getting 5 costs. Very good. I'll talk about these portals in particular, like more in depth after I explain all of them, and then talk about them generally. Crab-Rave is basically the same thing as Scuttle Puddle, as just after stage 5. So this means on stage 6 you're gonna start. I mean, you probably have fought this already. It's a giant crab. I'll talk about how to beat it. At Impale, every time you build an item with 2 components, you gain 2 gold, and then pot of gold at 6-1. All players split a pot of 120 gold. So all these, it just has something to do with gold. And this means that in these portals, well, obviously the tempo will be a bit higher, a bit faster, because you're just getting influxes of random gold, either at the very start or like just throughout the game. So what does this mean? It means that if you're trying to lose streak, you can make your econ intervals a lot faster. Either you use the 3 gold from early, or like 3 gold from early, or you're selling like the champions you get from champion delivery, or you just have the influx. Like you can make 20 gold by 2-1 with Crab-Rave, or by the end of 1-4 with Crab-Rave or Scuttle Puddle. If you're trying to lose streak and you just don't have a good start, you can make your econ intervals a lot faster. Or if you are win streaking, then you can both win streak and you can like aggressively push your win streak, or you could just like win streak and make your higher than normal econ intervals. Of course, these econ intervals will be lower than the lose streakers. So if lose streaker is making like 30 on 2-3 with like Scuttle Puddle, you'll probably be making like 20 on 2-2 if you're trying to win streak. But regardless, in econ portals, everyone is going to have a lot more gold, regardless of whether or not you're win streaking or lose streaking. Of course, still try to stick to one. Like if try to stick to only just win streaking, or try to stick to only just lose streaking. But everyone will be a lot richer, which means that people will be pumping levels faster. If you're re-rolling, it becomes a lot more consistent, just because you have so much more gold, right? Early extra gold, you hit the intervals faster, you just have more gold in general. So re-roll becomes a lot more consistent. You're able to hit a lot earlier and just more consistently. And then for those playing playing standard, you're able to really comfortably go level 8 on 4-2, even 4-1 if you're very rich, and then roll down for your 4 cost chosen, whether it be like Ezreal, Zed, Karthus, Viego, Akali, and play from there. So this is econ portals in general. Basically, the tempo of the game is just a lot faster. I'll talk about the individual ones just a little bit more, and then we'll move on to the next one. So 3 champions, when you start with your 3 tier 1 champions, basically, there's 2 ways of looking at it. I basically explained it as from the lose streak or the win streak perspective. You can either just sell them to try to make 10 early on like stage 1, and then just use that extra 1 gold from that interest to meet the next interval faster. Or you could use the tier 1 champions to try to create like a 2-star earlier and just formulate a strong board and play around that. So there's 2 ways of going about that. The 3 cost champion, you could either use this 3 cost champion if it's a strong early game unit to try to win streak. So something like an Urgot is really strong. If you have like a Vex with AP items, and then you have, I don't know, like an Amumu drop, or so if you have like a 3 cost champion that's very strong, you play around it, namely Urgot, I'd say that's the best one. But if you get something dropped like a Lux, then you're basically selling that and just getting 3 gold. Augment payouts, you just get an influx of gold every time so you select an augment. I think it's every time for each augment you have, it's 3 gold, so it should be like 3, or actually I think it's 4 gold. This might be outdated. I was under assumption it was 4, 8, then 12. But regardless, you'll be getting some amount of gold per augment choice. So this will be at 2, 1, 3, 2, and then 4, 2. Champion delivery, I already explained a little bit earlier. You definitely do not want to reroll too much on champion delivery, especially like low cost rerolls that you don't use higher cost units, because if you're playing a 1 or 2 cost reroll composition, by the time like stage 4 comes around, people might be hitting 2-star 5 costs just from having either like, if they already have 1 copy and the Nico, and then they get like 1 for the champion delivery, or they get 2 the same 5 costs from champion delivery. Basically, you're just going to get outscaled really fast, and your 1 or 2 cost rerolls will have a hard time beating your like Lucian 2s or Jin 2s. Crab Rave, if you may have died to Crab in the past, I know I definitely have when I'm playing Pentakill. You need, I think I explained it on this next board actually, you need a strong board that has healing incorporated into like consistent damage. If you don't have healing, then the Crab is going to kill your backline, and there's nothing you can do about it because it hits the entire board and you cannot position. So you just need some sort of healing. The best way to kill crabs, or the crab, like the giant crab on stage 6 onward, so this is including stage 6, is like melee carries that have healing. So either like a Zed with healing, or like Yone 3 or Riven 3, even like I think the 2-star versions of them with healing would actually be able to kill it, because you just sustain through the damage and do decent DPS. But if you're playing a backline, like a backline comp with a backline carry, make sure you have some sort of healing, whether it be from an augment or an item, if you want to beat the crab. I know ideally you don't want to have like some sort of healing on your backline carry, you rather just have pure damage, but this might have to be the case. The comp that has the hardest time beating Crab Rave is actually Pentakill, because Karthus doesn't do a lot of single target damage. He does a good amount of damage like spread out, and Akali doesn't do like too much single target damage. Viego's okay, but you might have a hard time with that. And then, as I mentioned, the champion delivery, try to play like standard level 8, level 9, hold your 5 cost pairs, and then hopefully on that dash 1 or the dash 5, so this will be after the carousel of that specific round, you will get a delivery of some high cost champion. So that's how to play around the economic portals. Just keep this in mind. Like early game, there's a lot of different options. You could either use this gold to really like spark your early game and just make as much money as possible through interest, or you could use this gold, like if it's in the form of champions, to try to formulate a strong board, because you're able to hit your 2 costs or your 2 stars a lot easier. Or if you have a 3 cost that is very strong early and you could play around it with items, then you could play that route as well. If you hit like Yone or Set, then you can easily tech in Heartsteel early, and that's very good as well. So plenty of different options to play around it, and just know that the tempo will be higher because everyone, including yourself, has a lot more gold. Very last thing I want to talk about, item payouts. Every time you build an item, you can gain 2 gold. So if you have a slammable item on stage 1, you can actually make 10 gold early. So just keep an eye out for that. Very slammable items right now are like Shojin, Infinity Edge. So you can, if you have something like that and you actually have a carry that can use it, you could slam it preemptively before stage 2 comes around and make 10 gold either on like 1-3 or 1-4. And then pot of gold, just remember you're going to get an influx of gold on stage 6-1. So if you, I guess most of the time by stage 6, you'll be trying to go level 9, maybe even level 10, and you're able to use this gold to strengthen your board. Just remember that all players will get this influx of gold, so just keep an eye out for that. Okay, so those are all the economic related portals. The next type of portals are item related. So these are things like the artifact anvil. You get an Orn Augment completed anvil, you get a full completed item, and you get 4 choices to choose from. Component anvil, you get 2 component anvils that will give you 4 choices of a component to choose from. Loaded carousels, of course, it's 2 item components on a carousel per champion instead of just 1. Radiant Blessing at 40 health, you will receive some sort of like some sort of blessing, and this can either be like a radiant item, it could just be gold, it could be, or I don't think it can just be gold, I think it'd be like gold plus items, or like I think I've seen like tactician crowns before. So at 40, once you reach 40 or below, so if you just hit 40 gold, you will get this as well, you'll receive some gift or some blessing. And then I'll talk about how to play around these two specifically. Spatula, I don't think like going on this portal is that good, because everyone gets a spatula, which means that everybody is going to be angling the same like narrow amount of comps. So either like pentakill or like heartsteel, or like I guess not really 8-bit that much, but most of the time you will want to play around your spat if you get one. So then if everyone gets a spat, there's gonna be a lot of contesting, but hey, that's up to you. If you high roll, then you will beat everybody else who low rolled. Support anvil, you get support item early, and then treasure army. On 4-7, you get to choose between like 5 specific options of like an item shop, and you could re-roll for 1 gold. So these are all the item portals. Whenever you land on an item portal, or if you choose one, a couple augments already increase in value. So anything to do with cybernetic, right? If you get extra items and you're able to like spread out those items more, or just have more items on many different units, cybernetic bulk increases the value, cybernetic uplink increases the value. Augments such as binary, of course, right? Like the more item components they have, the more binary value you can get. Even things like Pandora's, if you're able to reroll many items, then per turn that you reroll, you'll have a higher chance of rerolling into the best in slot that you want. So then like rerolling 3 components is a lot better than rerolling 1 component, obviously. So Pandora's items is super good. Scrappy inventions, you're able to spread out more components, get more scrappy value early. And then items specific to an augment, so like not today, right? If you have these like item portals, it'll be easier to get like a second Edge Knight, or like a second Crown Guard, or like a second Hodge. So even augments like that are a lot higher in value. So keep an eye out for that. I'll talk about how to play around. Oh, there's one more. So because we have so many items, some games you will just be getting 12 components. So this means you'll be getting 6 items in total. And this is like, I think this is the bare minimum that you can get. And the maximum I think is like 14. Don't quote me on this. But generally, if you don't have any like portal or any augment or anything special like that, you will be able to fully itemize and fully kit out 2 units on the minimum, which means that in compositions that have multiple carries, if you only get 12 components, so 6 items, not every carry will be able to be fully kitted out. So in item portals, you are able to play, or technically you are able to play anyway, but in item portals, compositions that have multiple carries are just a lot more playable, are a lot safer to play. So like in country, right, you have your Urgot that you want itemized, you have your Samira, you have your Mumu, and then ideally you also have your Vex, and then maybe even your set. So country has so many carries or so many units you want to itemize. Same with Pentakill, you have Karthus, you have Akali, you have your Viego, you have potentially your Yorick, and then even your Mordekaiser frontline. So items on these types of compositions are very good. Punk, right, your Jinx, Twitch, Mumu, your Vex, your Pantheon, and then last but not least, Heartsteel. It is because I include Heartsteel just because you never know what's going to happen. You could be playing around you will be playing around your Ezreal. You could do Zed Duo, you could have a Caitlyn, perhaps a Lucian, itemize your Alawi frontline with set frontline, or like your Zac. So in general, like items are always like good. Like items are never bad. However, if you are like, you need to be itemizing your main carries, and then itemizing like supportive units or like just like trait bots are just not very ideal. Like you don't really want to be itemizing like your Lilia in a pentakill comp, or like your Tom Kench in a country comp, or like your right? That sort of thing. So anyway, with multiple carries in a comp, item portals become a lot more valuable, so then you can deck everybody out. The next point is going to be on Loaded Carousel and Radiant Blessing. So I said I talked about this. These are basically regions that reward lower HP / loose streaking. So Loaded Carousel, right? We now have 2 components on each champion on the carousel instead of 1. So on 2-4, right? Stage 2, round 4, this is going to be the first carousel on stage 2. If you have lower HP, of course, you'll have a higher pick priority. So by this kind of rewards, or this does reward loose streaking. If you lose streak and you have pick priority, then you're able to get 2 potentially really good items instead of just 1 from your pick priority. So loaded carousels, if you have the choice, then loose streaking is perfectly okay. You even get rewarded. And then same with Radiant Blessing, right? If you lose streak and then you really save up all your gold, and then you're able to turn it around once you hit 40 HP, you get your blessing, you get an influx of items, gold, something, and then you could really turn it around from there. And then maybe you start losing or going win-lose once other players get to 40 health as well. So these are regions that definitely reward loose streaking, and you could play low HP with them. And then the other one I want to talk about is component anvils. Not so much completed anvils, artifact, or support. It's component in particular. Basically, if you are loose streaking stage 2, you don't have to pop your component anvils right away on stage 2. You can wait for after Krugs and then pop the component anvils to complete your items, because you cannot control what items you get at Krugs, but you can control what items you get generally from your component anvils to finish the items that you get from Krugs. And if you're not playing to win on stage 2 anyway, you might as well just keep your component anvils and really start winning out stage 3, or at least getting best in slot items. So that's something that you can do. I wouldn't really recommend it with completed anvil, artifact, or support, just because these are full items, and you might as well use them to either like kill some units or just pick some good generic items. But definitely with component anvils, you could finish off half uncompleted components that really need a second component to complete them. Okay, so I think that's all from here. I'll move on to the next type of portals. So we talked about economic portals so far. So either augments or either portals that come in the form of champions or just gold. Talked about item portals. These are ones that give you either completed or like opponent anvils or something to do with low HP. And then the next one is augment portals. So these are any portals that affect either the appearance. Actually, these are all. Sorry about that. These are all portals that affect the appearance and timing of your augments. So you probably have seen basically all these so far. So like we have our crescendo, so silver, gold, prismatic, reverse, prismatic, gold, silver. We have a lot to do with the timing of gold augments. We have the timing to do with prismatic augments. And then we have silver symphony, which is all silvers. So these are all portals that just affect the timing of what type of augments will appear when. So the only thing we could do for this is just be mindful and keep an eye out at certain stages what would really like either bail us out, or it's just something we can use that will benefit our board a lot, something we could play towards. So like prismatic finale or crescendo, right? So prismatic finale, this means that the last augment on 4-2 will be prismatic. I think crescendo, same thing, on 4-2 is going to be prismatic. So then we want to think like, oh, hey, our augments are coming at a specific time. If it is prismatic, then we know that our final one is going to be prismatic. We can look for something that will really help us. If we don't have healing, then we can look out for like Karmasis. If we want to be like itemizing our carries, maybe we wait out before itemizing our third item in case binary comes. So something like that. We just keeping mindful for what augments can really help us at what stage. I see a note here: Rip the Crescendo and Silver Symphony recombobulated away. Oh, is that okay? I thought it was just they removed the recombob within Silver Symphony. But if Silver Symphony and Decrescendo are both gone, then thank you for that note. I guess these are both gone, if that can be confirmed. But so that is for, yes, okay. So sorry about that. I thought it was the recombob that was removed from these two, not the actual augments. So now it is just these that are here. So I'll remove this as well. So then prismatic prelude, we know that it's going to be a prismatic augment early. So this is going to be on stage 2-1. So then some of the best best performing prismatic augments, so something like Twin Terror. This means that we can hold early twitches or early vexes if we get drop them from boxes, and if we hit Twin Terror, then we know that we'll be able to play it. So just something prepping like this. There's not too much we can do from these portals. They're not too influencing. Just being mindful of what augments at what times can really help out our board, and playing and itemizing around them. Okay, so here is generally how we want to be really thinking about our silver, gold, and prismatic, and this is very general. You'll see a common trend. So if we're getting a silver augment, ideally silver does not impact specific traits too much or impact your board for a specific like trait theme. So if you have silver augments, you would ideally want to be picking either some sort of like good combat item or economic augments. So if we see the best performing ones are like spoils. Spoils is so good or is very good now because of the streak changes. So this is just another way of consistently getting gold. Vampirism is extremely good for like a silver augment. Stationary support, best friends, 1, 2s, 3s. So either like some combat or gold or just some sort of items or a mix between them. But you don't really see anything too trait specific, right? And then we get gold, which is very trait specific. We have our punk specific augment. Scrappy is just very good, but it's also bugged right now. We have our executioner, we have our bruiser, we have our executioner again, we have heavy hitters that is just good for our either like punk or like a 3-cost reroll, heroic poisons for guardian, which is technically also executioners. So gold is a very trait specific augment. So when we are picking gold augments, we want to be looking at our board being like, okay, is there like a specific composition that I can play that relates to this trait or relates to this augment, and I'm able to pivot into it? Or if it's on 2-1, so if we get like Twin Terror on 2-1, we're like, okay, do I have a spot to play it? Most of the time you could just force it because no one else is going to be playing like Twitch effects unless they're playing executioners or country, so or even punk, which is actually a lot of comps, so maybe you don't force it. But this is just something to note that gold is very trait specific or just combat, such as Scrappy. And then the very last option is prismatic. It's kind of similar to silver. You have like your combat items and economic, not too much trait specific apart from Twin Terror early, which is what I was trying to mention with the prismatic prelude, like holding twitches and vexes early on stage 2-1 in case you hit this, which is performing extremely well. So you have like your re-rolling. Most of the time you're playing like country, Freaky Friday, you can play anything you want, but probably just a Kali Viego. So you have a lot of options. There's a lot that are just combat specific. You have your econ, you have your items, combat again. So it's kind of similar to silver, just not too much similar to gold, where you're not looking at a prismatic augment and thinking like, oh, if I play this, I'm automatically directed into one comp, except for the exceptions such as like Twin Terror and like maybe March of Progress, but you can still play a couple different reroll comps with March of Progress. So this is the general guide for each specific silver one. So for example, like the main takeaways is like silver does not influence traits that much. Gold really influences traits, especially like these are the best performing ones, right? These are the top performing augments. And then prismatic, you could basically play anything that suits your board, unless you get a specific one that relates to specific compositions. Okay, and then last but not least, we're on our final one. These are the unique portals, so they don't really fit into anything. Some of them are like combat related or just gives you something special. So I'll just go over each one individually quickly, and then that's all for today. We're just talking about portals. So the first one is duplicator start. We get start the game with a champion duplicator. So this is the orange one, not the lesser one. This means that we can either just play standard and then finish off some like pair of a 4-cost pair on stage 4, or we could reroll a 3-cost. I wouldn't really recommend rerolling a 1 or 2 cost just because you don't really get as much value as you would. You could just use like a lesser champion duplicator. So if we had a full champion duplicator, we might as well use it for a 3-cost, 4-cost, even a 5-cost. Larger legends, this means that every player will have 115 health, so everyone will have an extra 15 health, which is like about 2 combats on stage 2. If you get fully like beat, so probably around like 3, which means the average tempo of the lobby is going to be a lot slower. The game will be longer. You can use your health more as a resource for economy instead, so sacrifice some HP. So this means the strength of your board to really earn more gold. So the tempo of the lobby is just slower. You can reach higher capped boards, and you can greed a lot harder and use your HP as a resource. Loot subscription is the new Hall of the 9. Basically, at each -1, So there's actually at 2-1, 3-1, etc. Yeah, each -1 you will get some sort of loot from like a very highly varied pool. So this is a portal that has an incredible amount of variance. It could be a tome, it could be a component, it could be a boot, it could be gold. So just keep it out for that. And if you have a spat, it's okay to hold on to that spat. Maybe at the next -1, at the next start of the next stage, you will get like another spat or something that you can work with. So loot discretion, biggest thing is just keep your mind out, or just be conscious about what could potentially come in the future. You don't always have to slam everything right away. Multi-talented, your headliner grants +1 for both traits. This is really good with like Heartsteel, or to play Heartsteel, because you don't necessarily need the +2 Heartsteel. You could just get the unit in particular. So like early game, if you get a Cassante, you already know that it will have a +2 Heartsteel. So things like this, very like guaranteed lines are very good with multi-talented. Showtime, your shops will appear 1 level higher for your headliners. I would say this is one of the only times where like Fast 9 is actually quite applicable, because if you're rolling on level 9, then you basically are rolling on like level 10 for headliners, and you can play around a 5-cost headliner very easily. I think it's a 70% chance for a 5-cost headliner on level 10 odds. So if you're rolling on 9, you'll have a really good chance of getting a level 5 or a 5-cost headliner that you can play around. So that's Showtime. Honestly, it's very high variance as well. I would not ideally pick Showtime, but that's just me. If you like it, then go ahead. Tactician's Crown. This is a portal where you do not ideally want to be loose streaking, because if you're loose streaking, you're going to be taking an extra, most of the time you'll be taking an extra unit's worth of damage per round, and that is very tough. Also, the average tempo of the lobby is actually a bit slower, because you're spending that extra gold to play with that extra unit onto your board. So just keep that in mind. Ideally, you want to be either win streaking or have some sort of either another way of generating gold if you're not lose streaking and you're not win streaking, just because lose streaking, you're going to be taking so much damage and you'll be very low. Yeah. Oh, also Cyber is very good in Tactician's Crown, because you can just put the crown on them for Cybernetic Bulk or Cybernetic Uplink. Train dummy, you just get a dummy in the front. Very good for frontline, like front to back, frontline, and not too good if you're playing melee comps. So if you're playing like Yone or Riven, then you just get an extra dummy in the front, which is kind of awkward because you already have so many melees. It's better in Riven, but in Yone you have like the entire front line with melee carries or melee units, so dummies a little awkward. And then this makes augments such as crash test dummies very good, or a lot better in this specific portal, because then you get an extra dummy that crash tests and jumps forward and stuns. Unit Accelerator, very good to play melee comps. Your Yone Riven, your Viego, your even like your Yorick gets the boost. So any melee units, well, technically all units get bonus movement speed and attack speed. Even your Tactician will get bonus movement speed. So kind of like a metabolic accelerator on your carousel. And it's very good. Melee units, it's very easy. It's a lot easier to wrap enemies with your melee units on this. So just keep that in mind. And then the very last one, Wandering Trainer, either everyone's favorites or everyone's most hated augments or hated portal. You get a train dummy with your 3 permanently attached trait emblems. I can't speak too much about this. Just play according to your dummy and cook up some good stuff. So that's all. Those are all the portals and how to play around them. There's just a couple different types. I'll just rerun everything real quick and then we'll finish off. So economic, the tempo of the lobby is going to be a lot faster. Everyone has gold. You'll be hitting faster. You'll be leveling faster. You'll reach capped out boards faster. So just keep that in mind. Basically, items, you can either... Wait, what did I say for items? Items is just good in general. Just make sure you play around them. Like Cybernetic Bulk is good. Augments related to your items, so make sure you play around that, such as like Binary or Pandora's. Augments, it basically just affects the timing, so just keep that in mind. And then the very last one is unique portals. There's not too much generally I can talk about them. Just keep an eye out for each specific one, and if you get each specific one, or if you get a specific one, then you know how to play around it and go from there. So that's all. Bit of a different type of guide today. Nothing too comp specific, just generally. And that'll be everything. So the next time we'll have class is on Monday. And now we have some time for questions.